All right, well, welcome everyone. This is the training session number 1 for Lobby Day coming up at our big National Citizen Leadership Conference in Washington, D.C. And that event is going to be really the 10th through the 12th, with the Lobby Day being on June 12th. So that's what this is going to focus on tonight. My name is Mike Monetta. I'm the Director of Mobilization here at American Promise. And the first thing I want to do is just give you an overview of what this call is going to cover. And I'm going to take a little bit of time to myself at the beginning of this call, if I may, just to give everyone like the basics, right? The logistics, how the day is going to work. And the reason I want to do that is because I want people who couldn't make this training, which there's a decent amount, and are going to be watching the video later, to be able to just watch the first 15 minutes and have a pretty good understanding of what the day is going to be about. All right. So again, just want to go over the outline of the call first here. So I'm going to do an overview of NCLC, very brief, like 1 minute, just in case anyone isn't aware of what this is about. And then I'm going to do an overview of the Citizen Lobby Day, which is really what this call is about. And then I'm going to share with you a resource document that we've been working on. We used a very similar one the last time we did this in 2022. And that's going to have a lot of relevant links for you. Then we're going to introduce Jim Dornan, our Director of Congressional Affairs, and we're going to get some tips from Jim, and then we are going to open it up. That's usually my favorite part of these calls. We get to hear from our experienced volunteers, some tips from them, and just open it up to any questions that you all might have that we want to make sure that we cover before we get off here tonight. And I will just ask everyone to keep themselves muted just for this portion of it until we get to the Q&A, open discussion section. That will just keep the line cleaner for everyone. And then we're going to wrap up, and hopefully everyone will RSVP for the next training, which is going to be on June 5th. So with that said, overview of NCLC. This event is extremely cool. If you've never been to one of these, the first day is going to be very fun if you can make it. We're going to have like a big meetup over by the river, and it's going to be called Freedom is Brewing in DC, and you can RSVP for that now through our website. That I'm going to include the link for you in just a few minutes here when I share this resource document to RSVP for that event. It's going to be a blast. That's 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. on Monday, June 10th. Tuesday, this is what's really relevant to this call. We're going to block out 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. for state-based Lobby Day strategy meetings. So one of the biggest sort of lessons and feedback that we got from the last Citizen Lobby Day we did was there wasn't enough time to coordinate with the people that are going to be going into these meetings together. So we're going to be doing a lot of that. That's actually going to be the main focus of the next call on June 5th. And we're also going to have you strategizing with each other. So making sure you're connected from June 5th on. And during this time, we're going to do final strategizing for these meetings and make sure everybody has the right information, the packets, and you know who's doing what in each meeting. Of course, that's just to start the day. The conference doesn't officially start. Our big kickoff is actually at 10:15 a.m. So we want to give everyone time to take a little break after that session and make sure you can get over to the main area where we're going to be kicking off the conference. But we've got just some goals to go over for this day. And the most important one by far is that we want you, the person attending, to have a positive, fun, and fulfilling experience. So just remember that. Some of this can feel a little stressful. There will be changes at the last minute. In fact, change is the only guarantee. I would say for this day that meetings will change. We're going to have to be flexible on the days leading up to it, and definitely on the day of. But just try not to let it affect you to the best of your ability, and just really try to enjoy it. And then we, of course, do want to try to find a sponsor for the For Our Freedom Amendment. In our case, we are very strategically trying to find a Republican sponsor, or a handful of them, to sponsor the amendment. And of course, the goal is always to just expand support and awareness of our issue on Capitol Hill. And that's with legislators, staffers, anyone that you come into contact with. Basically, we want them to know about us. And we want to move every elected official and staffer. Staffers are an extremely important part of this process. And we want to move them up what we like to call like a champion scale. So from not knowing us at all to being lukewarm, okay, I've heard your pitch, to becoming allies, and then being willing to actually put their neck out for us and lead the charge and be a champion. So, and then here's the schedule. We're going to meet in the lobby at 7 a.m. So this is an early start. We want everyone to make sure you get enough sleep the night before, because this is going to be a long day. It does take a decent amount of energy. And we'd love to let you sleep in a little bit more than this, but it's just not possible based on the outline of the day, as you can see. So we've got 3 buses. All right. This is just the logistics I want to make sure that you're aware of, that are going to leave from the AKA hotel at 7:15. And they're going to bring everyone to the Lutheran Church of Reform, which is just 5 minutes from the Capitol. It's a great location. They let us use it 2 years ago, and it worked out very well. We can just walk right to where we need to go. And we do want to encourage you to bring your luggage from wherever you're staying, if it's the AKA or another one around there, to the church. You absolutely can leave your stuff there, because a lot of people like to go to the airport from there. So you can do that. We are going to be providing breakfast from 8 to 8:50 and doing our final preparations, making sure everyone's good for their meetings. And then 8:50, we gather our things. We prepare to walk over to the U.S. Capitol steps. That is always fun. We've got a bagpipe player that leads the way. He is confirmed again, same guy. He's great to work with. We do about a very quick walk over to the Capitol steps, and we're going to do a group photo at 9:15 a.m. And then we leave for our meetings, although there will be some people who have later start times. And in that case, those people will go back to the church until it's the appropriate time to go to your meeting. We will have lunch provided 12 to 2 at the church. And then we want to be wrapping up in like the 3 to 5 block. Some people will have meetings ending earlier, especially if you have to get to the airport. And we do want you to go back and check in, because we're going to have a video team there. We want to do video testimonials from everyone's experiences of the day. So it's going to be pretty cool. We're going to make it a lot more fun. If anyone remembers the last time, we didn't have music, so it felt a little down there. This time we're going to have some games. We're going to have music. So it's going to be actually a really cool place to check in. There's one caveat that I do want to throw with this schedule. It affects people who may have meetings in the 9 a.m. block, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. We weren't sure if we were going to be able to get any, but it's looking like we may actually be getting some meetings in that time. If that is confirmed, what we may do is do the photo first, but those details will be worked out. You'll know well in advance that we may just do the photo at 8 a.m. and then everyone goes and prepares and then goes from there. So that's the only caveat I wanted to throw out there. This is the meeting location. This is our headquarters for the day. Just like I was just saying, it's the Lutheran Church of Reform. This is the address, 212 East Capitol Street, Northeast. And then just a quick closer look for you. This is what it looks like if you're standing right at the building. And then the arrow is here showing you where the entrance is that we go in. We don't actually use the main doors here. We go off to the left a little bit. If you're coming on the buses, it's not going to be a concern. But if you happen to have to come late and catch an Uber, you might need to look where to go to enter. It's going to be right here on the left. And then this arrow is pointing to where we walk. So you can actually see the Capitol steps. If you look on the left, lower left there, that's the walk right there. We walk on the sidewalk, super simple, take a photo, and then break up for the day from there. Attire for this day is business or business casual. Pretty straightforward. That's what we encourage everybody to wear. How they're being set up, we have hired people to take on this role. We did this last time. We're using at least one of the same people to do this again. So their job is to make sure that everyone attending has meetings set up in advance. So we're just asking everyone, don't reach out to congressional offices without first coordinating with us about it. And we know some of you have a lot of connections, so we want to make sure that we're just coordinating this all together. So from today on, you can coordinate with me directly. So if you've got questions about meetings, just send me an email, send me a text, and I will coordinate with the proper people, because we've got a couple different people doing different roles depending on what district it is. So just make sure to reach out to me on that before reaching out to any congressional offices. Leave behinds. We are going to be leaving legislative packets behind. We've actually already got the folders. They look great. Each folder will have the congressperson's name on it. That's different than last time. So we're going to be a little more organized in that sense. Each packet will have a label with the congressperson's name right on the packet, and each folder is going to be specific to that elected official. So we're not going to try to do a one-size-fits-all. Every meeting will have its own packet and it will have its own ask. And you'll all know that. We're going to get into that more in the next meeting as far as what the specific ask for each legislator is. And the team lead, which we will be figuring out again on the next call, and in all the strategizing we're going to be doing from June 5th on. Each meeting will have a team lead, and that person will be given the physical packet ahead of time. We will very likely do that on the Tuesday morning when we do the state-based meetups. Just a couple of notes. This one is kind of exciting. For anyone who went last time, it was a huge pain. We had to get escorted into all the buildings and call people and have staffers come out to meet us before we could even get in. Those were COVID rules, and those are no longer in effect. And just wanting to know if your meeting does get canceled, we're going to try our best to put you into another meeting. So there's going to be a point person. This is all going to be laid out on your resource document, but you're going to be able to contact someone and say, hey, all my meetings are canceled. Can you help me out? And we should be able to do that. Just one note I wanted to throw out there, if there's anybody on this call that doesn't feel that they know what our theory of change is, what our plan is well enough, then I encourage you to RSVP for this event. This is done by one of our all-star volunteers, Ann Drum in Texas, who's going to be joining us in DC. And she puts on a great orientation. So this is just an introduction to our mission. And there's going to be one coming up on June 5th. In fact, the next day of our training, ours is going to be, the next Lobby Day training is at 7. Her training is going to be immediately following if you want to stick around and learn some more about our mission. And you can RSVP for that right now on our website.
I think Mike is frozen.
I think he is too.
While Mike unfreezes, the link is in the chat. You'll come in as a random animal, but anytime you see a blue hyperlink, that will actually take you to that resource. Some of those resources are pending, like scheduling. We don't have those quite yet, but you've got the links that are in there are the link to the next Lobby Day training, the link to the Freedom is Brewing event, which is free drinks and free food on us. So be there for that if you can. You've got a link to Mike's email address. You have Mike's phone number. You can text him. And then the rest of the links, some of them are already active, and the others will be active by the time we lobby. You back?
That's right. Thank you very much, Alan. Yes, that's right. So yeah, some of these are still being finalized, and some of them we just can't show quite yet because there is a lot of stuff still being set up. So, but this is absolutely what we're going to focus on the June 5th training, if you can make it. So we obviously encourage you to. And the schedule for the day is obviously on here as well, what we just went over. So I just wanted to make sure you had these resources. This training will be linked in this document, a recording of it as soon as it's over, and as well as the second training if you want to review going into this event. So that's actually it. I just wanted to make sure that you all knew that you had access to that. And with that said, I'm going to turn it over here to Jim Dornan. He is a fairly new member of our staff, although it doesn't feel like it. Feels like he's been here forever already. But we're super happy to have him. He's got tons of experience, as you can see by his bio that's on our website as well, if you want to read it. On Capitol Hill, lots of connections, lots of experience, and he's going to be joining us and helping us to coordinate these meetings as we go into the NCLC conference this year. So Jim, you know what, why don't I let you introduce yourself first, and then we'll go into some of the tips and stuff.
Okay, sounds good, Mike. Thank you. Hi, everybody. Jim Dornan, Director of Congressional Affairs. I've been on board since December 11th, actually. I was on the Hill for 15 years. I was fortunate enough to hold every office or every job there is in a House office, not a Senate office, but a House office, from staff assistant to chief of staff. And then, like most of my compadres on the Hill, I went downtown to try to actually make some money lobbying. And so I've had very fortunate career. I was Tiger Woods lobbyist, believe it or not, for 3 years at one point. And I've been fortunate to have some great experiences on the Hill. And I'm now working with a great group of people whose goal is to save the world. And we're all going to do that together. So what I basically like to do is, for those of you who've never been through something like this, walk you through the meeting, what to expect, what not to expect. The one thing I'll say at the outset is, don't be surprised at anything. And what I mean by saying that is that you may be in the congressman's office meeting with the congressman, or if it's a freshman member, i.e. a brand new member of Congress, you may be beaten out in the hallway with a staff member. So don't let anything throw you for a loop. Just what we want to do is we want to get our points across and give our ask at the end. It'll probably last about 20 minutes. If any of you have had a personal interaction with the member of Congress, I suggest you say that. Say, I remember seeing you at the Rotary meeting a couple weeks ago. I really liked your speech. You know, I introduced myself to you. Or, you know, I saw your wife in the grocery store the other day. Anything like that to kind of bring a more informal and friendly relationship with him. You are exercising your right to petition government right now. And so he's probably very grateful, or should be very grateful, that you're taking the time to come in and meet with him and talk with him about an issue that matters to you. Again, you may meet the member if they have votes, which we will know about by the bells and whistles that go off inside the House office buildings. The member of Congress will be down on the floor voting, and that'll leave us to the staffers. But I will say, as a former congressional staffer, they're the ones who do all the work. So you want to get a good relationship with them, and they'll be the one that you're interacting with after this, because this isn't just where you come and you meet with either the member or the staffer and that's it. We want to be able to follow up with them, to kind of stay on top of them, check in with them. Don't be a pest or anything like that, but just make sure they know how much you care about this particular issue, and that the time you meeting them wasn't a one-time thing. A lot of these I just kind of went over, but you always want to be polite. Obviously, going in, and as Mike indicated earlier, we will make decisions on which of you guys have what role inside the meeting. So there should be someone that leads the meeting, basically does most of the talking. That's not to say that the other participants shouldn't offer their opinions as well, but there should be a person that leads the meeting. There should be a note taker. So if there's any follow-up work that we at American Promise need to do, or if it's as simple as you writing an email to the staffer thanking him, that should be taken in the notes as well. And then any high points that you think that, if you see the member of Congress go, oh, I never thought of that, make a point of that, and we'll use that in subsequent meetings and communications with the member of Congress at a later date. Keep the small talk, however, to a minimum. A lot of members of Congress, God bless them, like to filibuster their own meetings, and they will talk and talk and talk until the meeting's over. So we don't want to allow that to happen, because we want to make sure that we get our points across too. So just be conscious of how much time we have. As Mike has, it's usually 20 to 30 minutes. And just keep it informal, but keep it important, I guess, is the best way I can put it. Again, member of Congress, once you hear those bells go off, the member of Congress will pop up and say, I got to go vote. He'll leave the staffer with us, and we'll finish the meeting, and maybe he'll come back in time to say goodbye, or maybe he won't. Either way, don't be insulted. It's the nature of the business and nature of his position. At the end, if he has any questions and you can't answer them, make sure you take down what those questions are, and we will follow up with him, or we will give you the answer so that you can follow up with them. Keep going and keep moving forward, and just say you'll get that answer to him as soon as you can. Yeah, don't forget to thank him. By the way, he's as grateful to you as you are to him for seeing him. Remember, you're voters, and you're the reason that he's in office right now. Maybe you are, maybe you're not. But anyway, and then we'll follow up, explain that we'll do follow up with him. Like I said, I will probably draft a short email for each of you guys to send to the staffer and to the member of Congress. And then that way you can stay in touch with them and you can keep this relationship going. You will have documents to leave behind, as Mike mentioned earlier. That'll explain to him basically everything that you've already said to him in verbally, but it'll give him a chance to see it and look at it and understand it a little bit better when this is all over with. And again, mostly the staffer will be the one who will need to stay on top of this. And so that's how we need to stay on top of the staffer. Definitely put your phones on vibrate or silent. We don't want to interrupt the meetings like that, especially if it's really busy, because it'll get in the way. So anyway, let's go to the next one. Basically just went over this. You go around the room, introduce each other, tie something into the member of Congress, is if you can. Hey, we belong to the Key Club together. Hey, we shop at the Food Lion down the road together. Something that relates you to the district that he can relate to. And so that way you'll see him again at the grocery store in a couple of weeks, and he'll say, hey, how you doing? You have a relationship with life for them. State why we're there. This is the person who's leading the meeting. And then after you're finished talking, ask them what questions do they have for you, because 9 times out of 10, this is a pretty important issue and a pretty complicated issue. They're going to ask you the questions. And so hopefully it'll give you a chance to clarify exactly what we're trying to do, which is obviously push the freedom for a freedom amendment. And then at the end, we will have we'll have a clear ask for you that we will go over as we get closer to the the actual meeting. This goes through basically what I talked to at the very beginning. These are the people you want to have. You want to have each person in the meeting take on one of these roles. And we will gather together, as Mike said, the day before, and we can even do it day of, to discuss who's going to do what. But we need to make it very clear who is going to do what, so we have our assignments as we walk into each one of these meetings. We want to be fully prepared and want to have everything in your head exactly the way you want it and the way you want to ask it.
Yeah, and I'll just add to this one. We will have some examples of questions for you in the resource document that we'll go over next time. So you don't have to invent a lot of this stuff. We've already been to these meetings many times. We've gotten tons of feedback on what works, what doesn't. So you'll have that available. And the only reason that we put 3 minutes in here for the personal story is just because that one can tend to be the one that can gobble up a lot of the time, right? So that a personal story could easily go 10 minutes of a 20-minute meeting. So that one, we just want to make sure that we're keeping it as tight as possible so we can actually have the discussion that we need to have.
Exactly, Mike. And the other thing that we will provide you guys is with either a quote from a speech they made or a piece of legislation that they've sponsored or co-sponsored. And we want to make sure we thank them for that, because that's basically what we're doing is we're tying them to our issue. And they'll say, oh yeah, that's right, I'm on that bill, aren't I? And so we thank them for their involvement and their willingness to get out in front on, again, something, a very important issue to the country. That's my last slide, Mike.
Okay, no, that's right. And I just want to make a note too. We did add one this year, and that is the person checking their phone for incoming alerts. So we're going to talk a lot more about this on the next training as well. But one of the things we wanted to do to improve communication with last minute changes, including the couple of days before, but especially on the day of, is that any changes are going to be sent out to everybody in a text. And someone should have the assignment of making sure they're checking their phone, and it's on silent, of course, for those alerts. So we're going to incorporate that into our strategy this year to make sure everyone's on the same page, basically. So we're all going to be getting those updates, not just the people affected in one specific meeting, because some meetings can affect others. So that's the plan right now. That's why that one's in there as an addition. So thank you, Jim. Now we're just going to stop and pause for a little bit. We've got about 20 minutes blocked out to take questions and allow some time for any of our volunteer leaders and anybody who has done this before, if you want to share some experiences or offer some of your own tips, would be great. That would be the time.
So there are a few questions, priority questions in the questions document. Mike, you want me to just shoot a couple questions at you real quick? We'll do it, Q&A style. Mike, is it a state issued driver's license enough to enter the Capitol building?
Boy, I believe so. Do you? I don't think you even need an ID, do you? No. Jim would be the one to answer that.
Yeah, no, you don't. The only thing you have to do is empty your pockets, all metal, and go through a metal detector. You do not have to show any ID. I think you might have had to do that during COVID, but again, the COVID protocol's out the window.
And each time you enter a new building, you're going to have to go through the screening process, which means empty your pockets. And if you're carrying a big briefcase, if you're carrying a bunch of keys or things, just make sure that you collect them. But if you can leave them behind with somebody, that's always easier.
Okay, Marie, I see. We'll get to you in just 1 second. These other questions are pretty easy, so I'm just gonna answer them real quickly here. So how do you decide who's going to be in the meetings and who the lead is? Well, we're going to be talking about that on the next call. But as Alan, I think, mentioned already, we're going to have a pretty good mix. So each meeting will have someone who has experience. So if you haven't done this, you don't have to worry about that. Just know that you're not going to be alone in these meetings, and we're going to be strategic about how we stagger people in each of these meetings. And the other question is how many people are attending NCLC. So far, I believe we're right around 150 registered so far. Someone can correct me, but I think that's pretty accurate. And that number usually goes up in the last couple of weeks. So we may be getting close to 200 by the time the conference comes around, which is fantastic.
I have one question. Will we have a ride back to Alexandria after those meetings to get to back to the hotel?
Good question. So right now, I think there's one bus that's going to be for staff, I know for sure. But if you do need to get back to the hotel, just coordinate with me directly. So you can just send me an email.
Okay.
And we'll make sure that, you're taken care of. But most of the people I think that are going on that day will be going to the airport or going somewhere else from there. So, but if you do need to get back to the hotel, let me know. That's a great question. Marie, I think I saw you with your hand up first here. Go for it.
Hi, everybody. I'm the volunteer coordinator for the New Jersey State chapter. And I just wanted to relay a little story that sort of illustrates what Jim said about kind of be ready for changes. My very first NCLC, I was leading the New Jersey group. We had 11 people. We were meeting with Senator Menendez's staffer at 9 o'clock in the morning over in the Hart Senate building. And we just had gone around and introduced ourselves to the staffer, and we heard an alarm. And he said, "Oh, we have to evacuate the building. There's an incoming I forget exactly what the term was, but basically there might be something flying into the building, into the Capitol. We have to evacuate the building." So we evacuated the building and we walked down 2 blocks and we're waiting for the all clear, and we're all looking at our watches. Oh my gosh, we only have a half an hour with the staffer. This is our very first meeting. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? So I talked to, we had practiced, we had gone through, we knew who was saying what. And I said to the staffer, "If you don't mind, we're standing under a tree. Can we do the meeting right here under the tree?" He said, "Yeah, go for it." So we had our meeting. More people spoke than we expected. He spent, instead of a half an hour, we spent 45 minutes with him. Of course, we had to wait for clearance to go back into the building. And it was a very successful meeting, but we were prepared and we felt comfortable saying what we had to say. So we had our very first Lobby Day meeting under the tree, 2 blocks away from the Hart Senate building. So that's, hopefully you won't have that happen to you, but things will change, things will happen. Just, you're there to meet with your congressman or your senator and their staff. Just take that in and be as comfortable as you can be. It's really a good experience.
Thanks, Marie. That's a legendary story, I would say. That's awesome. Love it. Stephen, go for it. Stephen Spitz.
Yeah, I was going to say just to the person who was saying that you have to go through security every time you enter a new building. No, you do not. There are tunnels that connect all 3 House buildings, all 3 Senate buildings. And all you got to do is go to where the tunnels are and walk between the buildings. That avoids having to go through security 3 times on each side of Capitol Hill.
Stephen,
I've done that many times.
Stephen, let me stop you there if I could, very quickly. One of the COVID protocols that is maintained is that you can do that in the House, on the House side and on the Senate side, but you cannot do it from the House to the Senate or vice versa. You have to go outside and come back into the buildings if you're going from one house to the other.
Good to know.
Yeah, that's correct. And that's what I said. If you're on the House side, you can go to all 3
Correct.
House buildings by going through the tunnel. And if on the Senate side, the same, but you cannot go from the House to the Senate without going outside.
Correct.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you, Stephen. Appreciate that. Laura.
There we go. Hey, everybody. I'm really looking forward to this year's Lobby Day. I've done a whole bunch of these, and actually had quite a few meetings in district meetings as well. And I think for me, the most important part of preparing for this is when we get together with our teams to plan the individual meetings. In the past, sometimes we've had, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 meetings in one day. They can go pretty quickly, and if it's the same team, then it can be very easy to prepare. But we've been talking a lot about the need for changes. Sometimes there's a cancellation, or you get added into a group where you may not have prepared with that group. And I would say for me, the most important thing to prepare is the time that we spend together as a team beforehand, where we talk about those roles and what we might say and who's going to say what in what order and stuff like that.
Yep.
Because that's how we present our confidence, and we know what it is we'd like to say and how we want to present American Promise to get this done. And I think the smaller meetings have been the best for me. I've had quite a few with Republican members, even very conservative ones. And it's been a really great experience, because some of those were, as Marie said, who's also done a ton of meetings, sometimes they have, oh, how much time do you have? 20 minutes. And you find, 2 hours later, you're still there talking about what's for Thanksgiving dinner. It can be very, very human and warm and nice. But I have had actually 2 meetings where someone, in each case, we had someone who, there are different people that joined the meeting who were rather experienced in having meetings with members of Congress, and also very, very strong on the issues of American Promise, right? They were used to speaking on behalf of American Promise. And because they weren't, for different reasons, part of the preparation where the little group, our little team gets together ahead of time, I didn't feel that we did nearly as good a job as we had done in the other meetings, where we just took our time, gave ourselves time to pause in the meeting so that the member of Congress, or more importantly, the staffer, could talk to us. Having that pause, and I know you get like nervous and you start talking more quickly, and nobody likes to have a pause in the meeting, but the pause is where they tell you what they're thinking, and our goal is to learn what they're thinking so we can bring them in, to support our cause. Anyway, it's going to be a great day. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks for the prep.
Yes, it is. Thank you, Laura. And very well said. I think that's an extremely important point, that we should stop and emphasize even on this call, allowing for that time and that space. I mean, that's why we've kind of built it in to the meeting structure, right? Asking them an open-ended question. So giving them at least one opportunity that's built in to talk about how they might feel about this issue, because everybody has an opinion on it. You might not like their opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, I think you probably will, from my experience, but you never know. So
yeah. So for example, my
opportunity.
very first one was, we were so scared. We just said, how do you feel about money in politics? Oh my goodness, Republican Leonard Lance in New Jersey. Oh my God, I hate money in politics. First of all, I never raise enough money. I'm not very good at it. I never spend enough time on it. I always feel guilty. And the worst thing of all is when people give you money, they expect you to do stuff for them. And that's so wrong. First 5 minutes of the meeting, the guy went over every single point we could have told him. And what we learned from that was that they know better than anybody how bad money in politics is.
And I will tell you, they hate raising it. I mean, they can't do it in their own offices. They have to walk across the street to the various party committees, and they sit in a little room with just a telephone and a staffer who's on their case raising money, and they're asking friends back home to give them money, and it's uncomfortable and they hate it. I've been doing campaign work for a long time as well, and that is the one thing that members of Congress and candidates in general do not like to do. You're spot on, Laura.
Yeah, great point. Thank you, Laura. Mark, do you have your hand? Oh, there you go. Yeah, saw you trying to raise your
Yeah,
hand.
because
Go
I
for
don't
it.
know how to raise it with the thing, so I gotta do it the old fashioned
We
way.
gotcha.
My question is, and going back to what Jim said about something connection. Well, I've got a retired military connection with my congressman, and because of that connection, he's got a basket full of very critical emails and letters from me. So how does that play into that? I know I got and this happened all before I ever heard of American Promise, but how does that play in? I know I got to behave myself, but is he going to go back and say, well, I know what that guy has said about me in the past. So how's that play?
Well, thank you, Mark, for the heads up. Yeah, no, those are things we definitely want to be aware of ahead of time. So I would say any of that stuff, any of that information, just send it directly to me in an email if you can, Mark. I know we're connected by email, and I will make sure that it's passed on to whoever's setting those meetings up so we can, plan accordingly.
Send me to.
Appreciate that.
So Mark, I got a quick question for you. Mark, is he gonna say, "Oh no, not this guy again"?
I think Mark might be
You
breaking
might.
up.
Sir.
He might.
Yeah.
I'm joking.
I know the conversation that Mark's talking
Oh,
about, and
no.
I'm comfortable
Yeah.
putting him in all the meetings in Wisconsin. He'll be fine.
Great.
We'll hold you to that, Alan.
Yeah, I don't want anything to be hidden because I've got some problems with him. And he knows
Just
it.
not in the meeting. It's a carrot and a stick
right.
approach, but just don't bring the stick to the meeting.
Exactly. Exactly.
Right. I can behave. I might not like to, but I can behave.
Good.
But I just thought, those sorts of things you should be aware of because this happened long before I ever heard of this organization.
You've never been banned from the office, have you? That's
Not that I recall, no.
Then you're fine.
He doesn't recall. Yeah, I mean, good point. Now that we're on it, if anyone has a background with any of these offices that you're going to be meeting with, make sure to let me know ahead of time so we can prepare for that. Marie.
So our prior mentor for these meetings, Sam Daly Harris, would have suggested that in a situation like that, you say, you as staff, the congressman may be aware that I don't agree with certain points with the congressman, but I do agree with, find something you can agree with, even if it comes down to being supporters of the booster club at your high school, at your local high school, anything that you can find that you have a common and, or I really appreciate the congressman's approach to such and such. Find something positive. You think they're going to, recognize your name as, oh, this is that person that sends the nasty emails. Then find a positive to say, yeah, I disagree with that, but I agree with this, and I'd like to see if the congressman would support what what we're trying to work for here, because I think it would be an improvement on our democracy.
Excellent. Thank you, Marie.
Works.
Hank?
Yeah, as a kind of a follow-up to that, the other thing that Sam suggested was try and go in there with a thank you for something he's done right, or she.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the suggestion is don't wait till a conference to find that. Between now and then, once you know who you're going to see, get on the web, go to their own website, type in their name in a general Google search and see what comes up. And hopefully you're going to find something that goes, yeah, that's good. Write it down.
We'll be providing that some information similar to that as well.
Cool.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thanks, Hank. And that is in the meeting structure, and that's something that we've done here at American Promise for a while. And yeah, we'll be talking much more about that next training when we know exactly who's, which meetings everyone has. But just finding anything that they've done that you can agree with is a great way to start a meeting. It starts on a positive note. And then what, like Jim said, we're also going to be providing you with, for example, if they're a Democrat who's signed on to an amendment to deal with this issue, you'll have that information as well. We're going to provide you that. You can thank them for it too. Vicky, go for it.
Hi, sorry I was a little late. We just arrived at the campground. I wanted to say too that sometimes if you're having a hard time being able to connect with them and look at the pictures they have in their office, that usually gives you a lot of material as to, especially their family or, the fish they got on the wall or whatever they have in the office is kind of a good icebreaker sometimes.
And oftentimes they'll have a map of the congressional district. And so you can make a point, hey, this is where I live.
Absolutely. Where are you these days, Vicky, by the way? Campground.
Right now we're skirting the tornadoes in the Midwest. We're safely parked in Illinois, and tomorrow we'll be back in the Cincinnati area until it's time for the conference. So yeah, we've had a couple scary nights. Parked near I always want to call it a fallout shelter, but that's not what they call it anymore. Parked near the tornado shelter. That's our mantra.
Wow.
Where in Cincinnati, Vicky?
Well, I grew up in Anderson Township on the east side, and right now we're in northern Kentucky in Covington. We took an apartment there for a little bit. until
I
they go
did a-
back on the road again.
I did a congressional race in Cincinnati. It's a great
Which
town.
one?
His name was Jay Buchert. He ran against Rob Portman the first time. Needless to say, we lost.
Oh, that happens.
But I
Yeah,
fell in love
that's
with
it.
Cincinnati. It's a great town.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot of fun. A lot of great stuff there.
All right. Thanks, Vicky. Travel safe. Alan, did you put a couple things in the chat? Did you want to elaborate on message discipline at all?
Sure. It's just that, like I said, everybody has their opinion on climate change. Everybody has their opinion on Second Amendment. Everybody has their opinion on the budget. But American Promise is narrowly focused on money and politics, and our method is a constitutional amendment, not a convention, but a constitutional amendment. So stay focused on just that one issue. Don't deviate to any of the other social issues, economic issues, financial, political. You may address the divide, and you can say the divide is caused by the money and politics, but focus on money and politics and focus on just the American Promise messaging. And also, if you're, let's say you vote conservative and this is a progressive member of Congress or vice versa, keep your political differences out. Trust that the person is there for the right reasons, and maybe you don't agree with the way they vote, but they are a member of Congress, and hopefully they are there for the right reasons, and that's just serve their constituents the best way they know how.
That's great advice, Alan.
Yeah, good stuff. Thank you, Alan. There's a couple more here that I think were answered privately, but I can just reiterate them because they're good questions. How much time will we have to plan each meeting with those who will be in the meetings? I think we went over that a little bit already, but we're going to give a lot more time than we did last time to really dive into that. We're going to start that conversation on June 5th. And the reason we have to wait till June 5th is because a lot of these meetings aren't set up yet. Although we have quite a few. Brian, I don't know if you want to talk at all about that, but a lot of offices just will not confirm meetings until you're about a week out or so. Right. So there's just no way for us to know yet. But by June 5th, we're really hoping that we have a good chunk of these meetings confirmed. And, last time, for those who went in 2022, we had a big influx of people just in the last week that registered for the conference. So we were really struggling to keep up with a lot of those meetings. So this time, to everyone's credit and our digital team for getting the word out there better, we've got 150 already registered, and we're hopefully going to know a lot more about these meetings on June 5th.
Yeah, Mike, I'll just add. So the way that this process has been working is that the moment somebody registers for NCLC, their address gets fed into a spreadsheet that says who their members of Congress are. And then our scheduling team immediately reaches out to the 2 senators and the member of Congress to try to get a meeting scheduled. And a lot of those staffers will sort of delay until a week or 2 out because the member's schedule is up in flux. But we already have over 40 meeting times and locations confirmed. And we've got, I think, over 100 specific requests out for meetings. And so we get more confirmed every day. We're hoping by June 5th, we've got almost everybody's scheduled nailed down, except for the folks that register like after June 5th.
Yep, thank you. Appreciate it, Brian. And another one was how we'll be communicating. That's a great question. We're going to be going over that on the next call for sure. So don't want to get into that on this call, but we're doing some final testing on an app that we may have. If that doesn't work, then we may just do text alerts as far as the lobby day goes. We're probably gonna do that either way, but we'll definitely get into that in the next call because that's a great question. Justin.
Yeah, I was just wondering if there are updated metrics available relevant to just money and finance that we could have access to, so that we have the statistics in front of us if they're asking, okay, like what are the numbers?
Yeah, so the packets that you're going to have will definitely have some info. Some will have more than others. We have some state specific information we want to put into some of the packets as far as polling, etc. And right now, there's a link on our website that you can find that has all kinds of data if you want to go through and read it from our research team. Connor, I don't know if Connor's on here or not to speak to that, but what's the exact link? Do you know, Brian? to find all that information? Some really good stuff in there.
Yeah, I'll pop it in the chat. And I was also just going to encourage Justin that if there were specific topics that he was looking for numbers on, he should reach out maybe to you, Mike, and pass that along, because we've got statistics about public support for campaign finance reform. We've got information about how much spending there is in federal races in certain states, especially some of our most active states. We've got state-specific reports. So there's a whole bunch of information that we have. If there's something specific that you're looking for, just reach out.
Yep. Huge shout out to Connor and Owen for just amazing work in the research department.
You really do.
There's one more I'll just do live from Bo. Are they meeting with us because they already have interest, or are they obliged to meet with anyone or with us? I'd say it's a mix, right? In a sense, I mean, some of them definitely want to meet with us at this point. We've been making connections for many years, but some of them may do it just because we've got constituents coming, you know. But if you've never done these types of meetings before, and I just think that you'll be pleasantly surprised if you're going into it not knowing what to expect. They're usually great conversations, and I don't think I've ever seen anyone come out of there and not been like, oh yeah, that was actually, you know, that was a pretty good experience. I wouldn't mind doing that again.
And to back that up, Mike, just these guys are usually very receptive. You're from the district, you're from their hometown or their home area. They appreciate hearing your point of view on a subject they probably don't hear a lot about all the time. So, and in some ways you've definitely got a leg up because you're offering information that they don't have.
Laura, I'm going to drop, just so everyone knows, I'm going to drop one more time a link to RSVP for the next training on June 5th. So it's in the chat. It's also on that document that I shared. And I'll drop one for Freedoms of Brewing as well. Laura, go for it.
I was just wondering if you could tell us a little bit about how you're coming up with the proposals for the meetings that we're asking for, since we're looking for Republican sponsors. Are we going to try to have as many Republican meetings as possible? And how did we get to the ask list for the 100 that we're waiting to hear back from?
Well,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to respond to that, Laura. So, so for Republican offices, if you happen to be a constituent, then we're going to make sure that you're getting in to see those members of Congress. We also will have some Republican senators and members of the House where we throw some either experienced staffers or more experienced volunteers into those meetings as well, because we want to be talking specifically with them about the language of the 4-Hour Freedom Amendment, and also tying it to some of the specific issues that have been raised in, I guess I would say, topically related bills sponsored by Republicans this session. So that would include bills dealing with foreign money in our elections, bills dealing with dark money, and bills dealing with the influx of foreign and dark money into state ballot elections. There have been Republican sponsors of legislation on all of those topics. So if you happen to be in a meeting with one of those Republican members of Congress, you'll know whether they've co-sponsored one of those pieces of legislation, and you can sort of tie it to the 4-Hour Freedom Amendment. Now, if you're going to be in a meeting with a Democratic member of Congress, you'll know whether they've co-sponsored an amendment resolution. And if not, one of the specific asks will be, hey, have you considered signing on as a co-sponsor to HR, whatever it is, or SR, whatever it is. So we'll have specific asks for those members of Congress. And then I think, Laura, did that answer your question?
I was just wondering if there was any certain priority, because in the past we were looking at the Problem Solvers Caucus was a very rich place to go to try to find Republicans that were open and things like that.
You're more likely going to be listened to from your member of Congress because you live in his district and you can or cannot vote for him. So he has an obligation, and it's the same with senators. Although obviously they're representing entire states, not congressional districts. But yeah, we're trying to put constituents in their member of Congress's office.
But we did, just to your point, Laura, we did have a sort of a target list of districts we really wanted to try to have there that Brian did an amazing job of putting together, along with Jim and I think a few others. And along with some of the states where we've hired managers recently, I've seen a huge influx. I can just tell you that from my own experience here over the last week and a half. I've seen them rolling in from some of these states, like Texas, for example. It's going to have quite a crew. So there was definitely some coordinating there.
And you know, in the past when we were looking for I mean, in California, because we have so many members and of course both senators that have co-sponsored everything that comes down the pike, the question we ask them is who are you working with, you know, across the aisle that might be amenable, you know, to this. And when we get names from certain members of Congress, I've actually gone out and recruited American Promise volunteers who were in district in order to be able to get that meeting, because sometimes you can't make that happen any other way. But
that's
you know,
fantastic.
the Young Kims of the world, for example, will meet even if you're not a constituent. I thought David Baldow would be a great person to get to also, but I was just curious about, you know, who's on the list.
Yep. Thank you, Laura. Appreciate
Looking
that.
forward to seeing it.
Yeah, we're almost,
Yeah.
we've got a few more minutes here. So Alan, you want to go
Yeah,
next?
I wanted to address the previous question about will we arm you with facts and figures and most recent numbers. If you're getting the report from Connor on foreign spending and just money and politics general, like the Money and Politics Roundup, read that. The best place you can go for the sources we have is going to be in our Money and Politics introduction presentation. A lot of facts, a lot of figures, a lot of slides in there. But the far better resources, since you're all coming from different states, is just get online and just type in money and politics, or, you know, think of something that was specific to your state. I focus on Wisconsin, and last fall, Wisconsin had the most expensive Supreme Court race ever. It was over $50 million. It changed the composition of the Supreme Court for decades to come. And when you just do a quick search, you can find lots of articles about how it was record spending on the Supreme Court race. That kind of information is powerful when you go to a member of Congress and you say, hey, this is what's happening in our state. This is what's happening in our district. So just take a little time, do a little research, find out something that's specific to your state, and even better, something that's specific to your member of Congress. And that's useful.
Perfect. Thank you, Alan. Great point. Good tip. Justin, 2 minutes left.
I just had one more question about kind of preparatory resources. Are there any possibly videos available, either kind of role playing or somebody actually petitioning a congressperson on this subject, so that we can just kind of watch it in action?
Oh, great question. Actually, yes, there are. We did a decent amount the last time. We had fun with it. And now that you mentioned, I can certainly find them and link them in that resource document. I'd be happy to do that. We did several training calls where we allowed whoever wanted to kind of do the role playing. Well, that was one of the reasons we were initially going to do 4 trainings, and then we just decided to cut it back to spare all of you from having to get on 4 of these leading up to NCLC. But I can absolutely go find them and link them. We actually even did one of them at NCLC in 2020, acted out a meeting, what a good meeting would look like and what a not so good meeting would look like on the stage.
It's important.
With Alan LaPolice.
No, not me. I've never got an Academy Award nomination. Who was the Academy Award nominee?
We had Deborah Winger up there, who's on our advisory board. Alan was acting alongside her, as well as a few of us, along with Carol Kerr, who apparently couldn't make this call because she was flying back from Casablanca, actually. Speaking of acting out a good meeting and a bad meeting. So hi, Carol. She said she was going to watch it when she lands and gets the recording. So, but yeah, that's a great point, Justin. We absolutely will make that available to you. And with that said, it looks like we are out of time for tonight. So this is going to be an incredible experience at NCLC, the entire thing, starting Monday for those who can make it, all the way through Wednesday. Looks like we got a great group here. We're going to continue to be organized and planned and strategic as we get closer to the conference. And I hope everyone can make the June 5th meeting, but if you can't, you will absolutely be connected to the people in your meetings, and you'll have their info, and you'll be able to coordinate at NCLC as well, as we mentioned. So that's it for now. Thanks for joining tonight, everyone. You're all awesome, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Good night.
Thank you,
Care,
Mike.
buddy.
Thanks. Take care, everybody.
Good night.